This is Maestro on behalf of Boxing King Media. I'm here with Steven Espinoza, head of Showtime Sports. Steven, first reaction to hearing that Jake Paul wanted to take on the son of a former heavyweight champion, a heavyweight himself in Hasim Rahman Jr.
My first reaction was excitement. Great. This is a way that we can save this event, because at that point there was a very real risk that the event would be canceled. But my second reaction was, is that actually wise? Because this is a huge risk. Jake is a relative novice. He has really improved significantly, over the last couple of years. But Rahman is somebody who's been in the sport for a long time, 100 amateur fights, 13 pro fights, been in some of the best gyms, in the U.S. with some of the best trainers. We know size doesn't win fights by itself, but skill and size can win fights. We saw that in Dimitri Bivol. He didn't win the fight because he's bigger, but a skilled big man will beat a skilled little man most of the time. And that's what we have here, is we have a guy who's more experienced, as good, if not better skills, and much bigger. So it's a real challenge here. Like I'm actually, and I've been in advising Jake, I would tell him not to take the fight, because this is a big step up at this point in his career.
More difficult fight than the Tommy Fury fight?
I think so. I think so, just because, more amateur background. I know Fury had the Fury name, but he didn't have the amateur pedigree that Hasim Rahman has, and he, and Rahman has more fights as well. Plus the size difference. Jake and Tommy are roughly the same size. Jake is probably going to be, 20 pounds lighter than his opponent on fight night.
Anything Showtime did or could have done to help Tommy Fury with his visa issues? Were you at all involved in those discussions?
Yeah, everybody was sort of trying to pitch in and figure out what was going on. At the end of the day, it wasn't absolutely clear, but what became clear is that it wasn't going to be a quick process to clear up. So, it's not as if Tommy's on a no-fly list or something. There were some details that need to be cleared up, and no one could tell us that they would be cleared up in time for there to definitively be an event. So, look, it'll take time. I still think, I know there's some bad blood and some disappointment, because this is twice that Fury events have fallen apart. I still think there's some value. There's certainly bad blood and a lot of the rivalry that is still there. So I think there's a reason to do it. Whether Jake's willing to give it a go for a third time is a separate question.
What are your thoughts on kind of working with other networks to create big fights? I'm thinking specifically about MJ Magdaliev, who's affiliated with DAZN, and Stephen Fulton Jr., who's affiliated with Showtime. Is that a serious impediment, that divide, in terms of making that fight happen?
Look, it's a detail that needs to be worked out, but I don't think that it needs to be worked out as sort of a network co-promotion and co-production. I don't think so. There have been plenty of instances where top-ranked fighters, let their fighters go fight on DAZN, and DAZN let their fighters go to over to ESPN. There are instances where, fighters have gone from Showtime to go, for the Wilder rematch. We had a conversation with Wilder. Fury was insisting that, the fight, be on ESPN. So, we didn't stand in the way. We had Danny Jacobs, and when Danny Jacobs wanted to fight Golovkin, he called me personally and said, "Look, I've got this career opportunity," and those instances were not pointy. So the reality, everyone's got to be flexible. I think there are easier ways of solving it than saying split down the middle. Once you go into a co-promotion or a co-production with another network, literally everything you do, every little decision, who the anthem singer is, when you do the press conference, where you do the press, where they sit, everything has to be, it's multiplied by, not by 2, it's like 4 times as hard, because you've got everybody who's got to sign off on every single decision. And I think, quite honestly, unless you're talking about one of the biggest events in history, like Tyson Lewis or Mayweather Pacquiao, it's not worth it. There are simpler ways to solve the issue.
And you have a good working relationship with the other broadcast partners. I'm thinking specifically about Eddie Hearn, able to work with him to create big fights.
Look, the reality is, we don't have to be best friends. You know, it really doesn't matter what the relationship is. You know, I'm never going to say, hey, I'm only going to work with people that I like and trust, and people who don't lie. If that was my criteria, then I wouldn't do business with anybody in this sport.
Yeah.
So the reality is, you know, sometimes you have to do business with people to get to an end. And, you know, that's just part of the sport. It's part of, you know, every business. You know, you're not best friends with everybody you go into business with, but you focus on the result. The result is getting the best quality fights that we can.
Don Espinoza, muchísimas gracias. This is Maestro on behalf of Boxing King Media. Thank you.